Hey, welcome to another episode of MLM Renegade. You guys, last week was incredible as I spent the week at Funnelhacking Live, and we're going to talk about it. So here's the million-dollar question. How are network marketers like us, who've tried everything their upline ever suggested to be successful, and yet still struggled, who grew up with technology and aren't stuck in the 20th century, how are we supposed to grow our downlines in our bank accounts and yet still have time for real life? My name is J.R. McKee. Join me as we explore how to use 21st century learning and technology to grow our downlines and build lasting wealth. Simply put, this is MLM done different. Welcome to MLM Renegade. All right, guys. Hey, I am so excited. This episode is just a little bit late getting out this week, and I apologize for that. As soon as I got home from Nashville, where Funnelhacking Live was taking place, I was home for about 24 hours, turned around, and flew out to San Francisco, California for my day job to do some work. So it was a great learning experience. I had spent some time out there, but I got back amidst a snowstorm here and quickly came up to my little recording area, and I needed to get this podcast out because so much good happened. Like, it was incredible, the things that I learned while I was at Funnelhacking Live. Now, Funnelhacking Live happens every year. It is ClickFunnels user conference. And there's always an incredible lineup and incredible learning that's happening. But beyond that is the networking. I mean, just people who I've come to respect, who I've come to really love and admire, frankly. They were all there, and I was able to spend time with them. I was able to be around Steve Larson a bit. I was able to actually help him with some projects that he was working on. And I met with Catherine Jones, who I'm actually hoping to get on the podcast. She does design hacking, or really she helps with funnels, and she was incredible. Met with Marley Jacks, who is going to be on the podcast. She's already approved. She's already said that she would come on, and she does everything via everything with video, and just these incredible human beings as they were striving to both help other people and train others. In fact, over the course of the week, they raised, it was like more than $250,000 for Operation Underground Railroad, which saves children from slavery. The week capped off with Tony Robbins. I mean, Tony Robbins, right? We don't need to belabor the point of what he brings to the table, but I wanted to go over, and this episode may be a little bit brief, but I wanted to go over some of my takeaways from that week. I flew in on Tuesday night, and things really got going on Wednesday morning, and some of the things that I learned are really were being reinforced. There was a lot of people who said, "Oh, I've heard all that before. I've heard these things before." They've heard it all before, and that's true. And I was reminded of a learning that I had in a religious aspect, where talk about in the scriptures, the most important word that is uttered in the scripture is remember. And remember helps us to remember and to really take into account what's important and what is necessary and what is needful to be heard over and over again. Because let's be honest, as humans, we don't get it right the first time. It just doesn't happen, right? And we need to be there so that we can get better each and every time. And so that was a big takeaway that I had, is that we need to be there. We need to show up. Showing up is like 80% of the job, but then beyond that, it's a matter of doing the little things well. In fact, my friend Rob Sperry talks about this a lot, especially in network marketing. People who are successful are the ones who do the little things well. There's no silver bullet to success. It's doing the little things over and over again that makes you good at the big things. And one of the speakers during the week was Ryan Holiday, and I've raved about his books. The Obstacle is the Way, Stillness is the Key, Ego is the Enemy, and he has his newest book is Perennial Seller. And Perennial Seller talks about creating something that stands the test of time. It isn't just a fad, but really stands the test of time. And it is a fantastic read. I'm about halfway through it at this point. But listening to him on stage and where he comes from in the thought process that he goes through was really fascinating, and really kind of gave me an insight, because really his books, I mean, I've talked over and over again about how The Obstacle is the Way is one of my favorite books, and it really will stand the test of time. And he's using philosophy that's millennia old, and so it really does give us some great insight. And one of the other guys who spoke was Tom Bilyeu, and Tom was the former CEO of Quest Nutrition. Quest Nutrition, they're Quest bars. You guys may have seen them before or eaten them even. Tom sold his company for more than $1 billion. That was with a capital B. And the interesting thing, though, is he didn't talk about his successes. He talked about his failures. And I really drew from that, because so often we want to sweep our failures under the rug. And with every successful person, they don't let their failures define them. In fact, their failures are just a stepping stone. It's one path that they took that they figure out didn't work. And he talked a lot about that, how as a 26-year-old, he was broke, no job, living in his parents' basement, and he had this wonderful girlfriend who became his fiance, and his father-in-law just didn't believe him that he would actually make his life out of something. He said something in the effect of, "My daughter has come to expect a certain quality of living, and how are you going to provide that?" Because they were broke, and they were and he didn't have any drive, and then he found it, and he created something from scratch that he was able to do some incredible things with. He's got a podcast called Impact Theory, and I'm a new subscriber, and I love it. I hadn't actually heard his story previous to Funnel Hacking Live, so it was really fantastic. And the thing that I think the thing that I got most over the course of the week was a couple of things. The basics are really important. John Wooden, the incredible basketball coach, he coached UCLA basketball back in I think it was the 70s, it was before I was born. He would start out each season teaching his players the correct way to tie their shoes. Now, these are basketball players. These are collegiate basketball players. I think they learned how to tie their shoes when they were 5. But what that did was really broke it down to the basics. In fact, I think it was I think it was Bodie Miller, the Olympic skier, who said that he would start off each season with an entire day skiing in a snowplow. Now, if you've skied before, you know that we talked about pizza and French fries, right? French fries being your skis being parallel, pizza being in kind of that snowplow formation. And that is how we teach kids, and adults, but how we teach beginners how to ski and how to control your speed and how to make turns and link turns. And those are the basics. And he would go and each season begin at the basics and build up from there. And there's something to be said for that, because the basics are the basics for a reason. They're important. They're building blocks. They're fundamental. They're foundational to what we need to do. And I think over that week, what I found was the basics are needed. And skipping past them because you've already heard that is not the way to actually win. And so when Russell was on stage, Russell Brunson, and he was talking about telling stories, or he's talking about his epiphany bridge. He talked a lot about frameworks, and I kind of had an aha moment that these frameworks are everywhere. It's how you do things, and frameworks are broken down to be even smaller frameworks, and so you have frameworks inside of frameworks. There are formulas for success. And when you can mimic those formulas and use those formulas to your betterment, you get better and you can sell things. And that's, I think in network marketing especially, there is no greater lesson than that. Because if we can break it down to its most atomic parts, its smallest parts, we can find success and then duplicate that success over and over again. And throughout the week, seeing these incredible people who have earned, ClickFunnels has the 2 Comma Club award, which you get when you sell $1 million through a sales funnel. They have the 2 Comma Club X award, which is $10 million, Roman numeral 10. And they just introduced the 2 Comma Club C award, which is C is the Roman numeral for 100. So literally, people have sold more than $100 million through a sales funnel, and they were awarded at this. And what they all said was that it was down to the basics. And some of these people were saying, "Oh, I just had this epiphany that when Russell was teaching the very basics about how it applied in this particular situation." And that was amazing to me, because here are these people who have reached what I would define as success. And they continue to improve and continue to get better. And that continuous improvement, the Japanese call it Kaizen, is the way that we can really get to our ultimate goals and our ultimate desires. And so that was a really neat thing for me to realize and for me to grasp hold of, because over all the time that I've been doing my own thing, that I've been learning and I've been growing and I've been trying to create my business and grow my business, I think sometimes I get caught up in some of that shiny object syndrome and not going back to the basics and not focusing on the small things that bring about success. And there are frameworks, there are stepping stones, there are ways that work like Novocaine every time, right? And that's what we need to go after. So my biggest takeaway from Funnel Hacking Live is that there are frameworks for success. And when we follow those frameworks, we will find success. It literally is, you plug into the framework and you do the work. And doing the work is the hardest piece. You know, a lot of the speakers at Funnel Hacking Live talked a lot about mentality, positive mental attitude, really getting outside of our own head, because literally the things that we tell ourselves are the things that stop us from being successful. And when we can eject those from our vocabulary, when we can pull those out of our daily vernacular when we talk to ourselves, we will have success. You guys, I want you to have success. I want you to be engaged with those around you. I want you to use those frameworks that are out there. And I'm going to talk more about these as we move forward. But I want you to use the frameworks that build success. And when we've built that success, ultimately, we can have anything that we want. That's all I've got for this week, guys. Looking forward to the coming weeks. We've got some fun stuff coming up. I can't wait to share it with you. Hey, thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe. And if you loved us, leave us an awesome review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you consume your podcasts. Now, if you'd like some free training for your team on how your recruiting efforts can be bettered and brought into the 21st century, go to podcast.mlmrenegade.com and get your copy of the Renegade Recruiting Kickstarter.